I did that.
Remember, there's some latency. That worked.
Okay.
What'd you change your microphone to?
The headset that I'm wearing.
Change it back to studio display.
Okay. I did get a chat from a username random user that says it doesn't appear that my microphone is working. The chat is making weird songs. We also have Juan Gonzalez in chat.
Did you change your microphone?
No, because it wasn't working.
Well, let's try to change it back and see if that fixed it.
Alright. Alright, I did change it back. Let's see if that works better. Alright, folks. So, we just hooked up our ATR 2100 microphone, and we are now able to be heard. Hopefully, thank you everyone, Juan and random user, for telling us that the chat and the audio was broken. I really appreciate that. You guys are awesome.
Okay, so I'm testing my voice. I have the stream going so I could hear it. Yep, we're good to go.
We're good to go. So what I think happened is when I tested the stream on my end, it was fine, but then I think after a few seconds it just lost it.
Yes, after a few seconds, the stream just dies, or the audio just goes away. But the ATR seems to be working just fine, so that's great.
Yep, we'll probably be using that for the rest of the stream.
Yes, we will.
And everything else.
Because the studio display, I guess the microphone with the studio display in Windows just does not get along.
You know, I think so, but it's weird because it used to, and I think maybe they broke something. Who knows? That's something we could problem solve for another day.
Yes. So, we're glad we got this working. Thanks for your patience and putting things in chat. But this goes back to the theme of, this is convenient.
It really is.
For this kind of thing, because... and, I appreciate you, Jeff, for giving us a call. Somebody texted Taylor, which she ignored.
Hey, I was streaming, so...
But I kind of figured, if we're getting a text and a phone call from some people, something's wrong.
And I'm sorry. I was streaming, so usually I don't want to have my phone being blabbing in the middle of my stream.
Yeah. So, we got it figured out, and... that's the whole point of today, is to talk about problem solving. How do you problem solve different situations? And I think that is one of the main things that is important, like we said earlier, for today's time and technology and the digital age and things like that. So we use technology on a daily basis, and sometimes it works great, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes we're working on our books or our taxes, or we're working on all these different things, and you have situations where you don't know what to do. You then have a problem that needs a solution. You wake up in the morning and you plan your day, right?
Yep.
Planning your day is a solution to a problem. What are you going to do that day? That's the problem. Making a plan is the solution. You may realize, oh, my house is unorganized. I need to clean it. You've just come up with a solution for a problem. Now, executing that solution may be more of an issue and may cause other problems.
Correct.
But it's coming up with and following through with a solution to a problem. And that can involve, your programming, your finances, your taxes, all these things. And so really and truthfully, what you have to do is when you know you have a problem, you have to think about it like this. Can you have a problem without a solution?
Of course not.
Right. You cannot have a problem without a solution. You may not like the solution that you have to implement for the problem, but there is always a solution for every problem. For example, if you are, both of us are legally blind, right?
Yep.
If you're legally blind and you are making minimum wage or you're on Social Security and you don't have the money to do the things you need to or to live, what are some solutions to that problem?
Okay. Start a business.
Yes, that's one.
That's one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Others are when you can get a better job, but again, within reason, right? Because, you can't just get a better job instantly, right? So you need to find better ways to make more so that you can live off of what you have. So really, start a business or try to get more income or try to figure out ways that you can deduct expenses within reason.
Mm-hmm.
And try to figure out ways that you can be able to, even though you are living on minimum wage and Social Security, try to find ways that you could still get ahead.
Right. And, one of the things, a lot of people don't like this, but one of the things that can be done is if you have to ask family or friends for help. It's not an optimal solution, but it's a solution, right?
Mm-hmm.
Again, we don't want to have to do that, but that is a solution. Again, may not be the solution that you like, but it is the solution that will work.
Right. It's just, you have to be careful because if you do that every month, they might not.
Yeah.
Like you. That's why I kind of don't like to mention that one as much because.
But it is a solution.
It is, right.
Because here's the problem. And it's funny because every time I move, because I'm kind of further out, it makes me blurry. So it's like, that's distracting. Let's see if I can fix that.
So here's the problem. We need to fix that.
Yep. Troubleshooting is always important.
Yep.
So here, again, if you have a problem like we're talking about, that is a solution, right? And we may not like the solution, but that is a solution. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So it's important to look at every problem and every solution to that problem and figure out which one makes the most sense for the right situation.
Yep.
What's important is to see all possible outcomes. And you say, okay, if cause and effect. If I use this solution, what are the pros and cons? If I use this solution, what are the pros and cons? If I use this solution, what are the pros and cons? Right?
Yeah.
So in hearing that, does that kind of change how you look at problems?
Maybe. We'll just have to see if we can apply it.
Right. So, if you're, and this goes for anything, if you're, say um, a few weeks ago, I was out visiting family, and I lost all feeling in my left hand. I had a problem. What were my solutions?
Go to the emergency room.
That's one.
Try to see if it would heal on its own. Like
That's two.
Yep.
So
Try to do remedies. Like
try to do at-home remedies and exercises. That's three.
Yep.
And a combination of all of those.
Right.
Now, I tried 1 and 2, and that's the other thing, is trying multiple solutions. But the other solution could have just been let it just do its thing on its own.
Well, of course, but it could have got worse. So.
Yes, that can make it worse. So it's taking all the possibilities and saying which ones will be the best in the long run, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the same with this. If somebody is, say somebody is in a job, and that job is changing its policies, they're changing everything about the job and changing, the aspects of the job to the point where it's not even the same job that you went for anymore. That's a problem.
It is.
Because then you have to say, what am I doing here? And you say, okay, what are my solutions to this problem? Get a new job.
Yep.
Find ways to deal with what's changed, or try to find a transfer in that company to something else. For example, when I worked at previous jobs, they would change aspects and change rules for things that I didn't always agree with. And so I often had to ask myself, do I want to stay there, or do I want to go somewhere else? So several times I went somewhere else and ended up getting more money for doing it. So it's, again, how do you come up with the best solution for the problems that are in your life? Some people just aren't good at cooking.
No.
Is that a admission there, Tay?
I mean, maybe for myself. I'm not saying that it's an admission for anyone else except myself, but I am very bad at cooking.
So, again, Taylor has found problem-solving techniques to deal with not being a good cook. What are some of the ones you've used in the past?
Meal kits. These are Freshly, Snap Kitchen, any of those options.
Mm-hmm.
I could try to cook. That's a solution. Or I could just eat out. That's another solution.
Now, which one is the worst of those solutions?
The worst is probably a tie. Well, actually, no. It's probably just eating out all the time. But it also could be me trying to cook, because if I set the apartment on fire, no one's going to like that, including renter's insurance.
Right. And it goes back to, what are you willing to do? What solution is what you're willing to do? Even as far as, you could take this as far down the rabbit hole as you want, and even into realms that are not good for this stream. But, I mean, if you think about people that are worse off than many of us watching this stream, some of their solutions are radical and violent. And, it's because they don't know another way. They don't know how to see themselves getting a real job, or getting out of being homeless, or coming out of their situation, because they're trapped in a loop. Just like in programming.
Right.
They're in an infinite loop. They don't know how to escape that. So it's sometimes it's just being shown a different method for problem solving. And, there's always different ways. And sometimes it's just talking, another method for problem solving is just talking to somebody else, getting opinions on the problem. Because as a programmer, what happens a lot is I will work on code for 4 hours and say, I can't fix this bug. I'll step away or ask somebody like, hey, how would you do this? Like, not even through code. And it just gives me the perspective I need to get back in there and fix what I'm trying to do. So sometimes just stepping away from the problem and just letting your mind think about the problem will actually help you come up with the best possible solution. I think we've talked about it a lot. Do you want to see if anybody would like to ask questions in the chat?
Yeah, I don't have any current chat messages, but if you would like to ask questions, feel free to put them in the chat and we'll go ahead and address them.
And hopefully our audio is working, because that would have been terrible if I just spoke all that and
no, it's working, but yeah, it's working. But if anyone is in chat or you want to say hi, let's see who's watching.
And yeah, it's really great being on Taylor's channel. The reason why we're having this stream is Taylor wanted to learn more about problem solving techniques. And, when you're programming or working on code, or I guess even doing finances and bookkeeping, I have no clue, by the way. I'm not a financial person like Taylor is. I do not understand any of what she talks about most of the time. As a person that does that, there are always problems. There's going to be knowledge that you don't have, and you have to find out the solution. And there's always going to be, I would say in the 1990s, this was more difficult because we didn't have the digital age that we do now to just go out and Google search things, right?
Yes.
So now we do have that.
And we also have the ability to have a plentiful supply of soda.
Yes.
Sorry, I just had to throw that in there.
Yes. Drinking soda on stream. Yep.
Wow, went down the wrong tube. Okay. Okay, we'll problem solve that. No. Y'all, this has just been interesting. It's been an interesting week, I'll tell you that much. We had a big problem with our hands. Michael, do you want to explain what the heck happened to us this
Sure.
week?
Our apartment flooded. We're just now getting over that. So we had the multiple problems of getting back on our feet after our apartment flooded and working as both of us in a hotel room. So we made it work. It all went well. And so we're back in the apartment such that it is at the moment.
Yep.
And it's great. We're just getting back on our feet. So.
But yeah. Do we have any chats? I haven't heard anything. Is anyone still watching?
Or did the audio problem chase everybody?
Yeah, I wonder if the audio problem chased everyone away. If you're watching, please go ahead and say hi. Because I'm paranoid, I want to make sure that my stream is working. I'm just going to go check. Y'all, I'm just like... We have 2 people watching.
All right.
So, if anyone is here, go ahead and say hi. Michael, do we want to go into more programming stuff now in terms of problem solving? Or
Sure.
do you have any idea of the other things you're going to talk about?
Sure. So we can go into more programming, problem-solving techniques. So if you're programming and you're trying to figure out something, it's always good to go to the basics. So, for example, I'm going to throw you under the bus.
Just do it. I've already been thrown under the bus like my entire life. Just kidding. So, basically, the bus is where I live under, y'all. I've been thrown under the bus so much that I basically just live under the bus.
So, here's the deal. Taylor today was writing some code, building an awesome Markdown editor, which is really awesome.
It is.
But She was using ChatGPT to write the whole thing.
Of course, because I didn't know the fundamentals.
Right. And so when something doesn't work, she doesn't know how to problem solve it because she doesn't understand the fundamentals of object-oriented programming.
Nope.
So she was relying on ChatGPT and her knowledge of programming from the top down to get her through where she was trying to get. That's not going to do it, folks. That will just get you stuck. When you're starting to write a project, you need to learn how the fundamentals of the thing that you're writing work. You may not know what all the commands do. Like, I do not know all the WXPython events. EVT underscore menu, EVT underscore button. I don't know all those. But I know where to find out the information that does.
Of course, so do I. Maybe a
But-
little bit too much.
But I do know how to write a Python script. I do know how to write classes. I know how to do instance variables. I know how to do or instances of classes. I know how to do class methods and what self or this in JavaScript is all for. So I understand those concepts. Taylor does not.
No.
And so she's trying to build a bridge without having the supports in place. She could put the supports in the water and on the land, but the whole thing's going to topple down when there's one problem.
And that's what just happened.
Mm-hmm. So that's the first foundational step to problem solving. Know your content material. Even when, let's just take it back to our situation. We do not know our rights as Texans if your apartment gets flooded.
No, I knew my rights as a Michigander because I've been a Michigander my entire life, but I've never been a Texan.
And I'm sorry, but the term Michigander is just funny. As
Well.
a Texan, that term is just hilarious, and I will laugh about it till eternity. Sorry, Taylor's family who might be watching this.
Oh, they probably are watching this.
But
so we might get a text about this one later, Michael.
but it's funny to me.
Well,
Okay, so I know that we have people that are watching from Washington. So we have Texan, Michigander. What is somebody from Washington? Answer that.
let's do that. Yeah.
I mean, I could see like Arizona being Arizonan. That would be fine. But what is Washington?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good question. If somebody knows that, put it in chat.
Please, let me know.
And what it would be Oregon and Oregonian?
I think it'd be Oregonian.
Oregonian?
I think so.
Oh man, I could have too much fun with that.
I just totally derailed Michael.
Yes, you did.
And I just-
Kansas.
I don't know, Michael.
Okay, yeah.
Wow.
I think it's Floridian.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
We just sent you off on a
Mhm.
wild, and I just said the words. But either way, we don't know our rights.
right, we don't know our rights in Texas as renters for
Water
Yep.
damage.
for water damage if they have to cover the hotel, if they have to do whatever.
So I did my research.
And that's our fault for
Right.
not knowing that going into this.
Yeah.
And Taylor's done research into it.
Yes.
And what'd you find?
So I found that if you're a tenant in Texas, your landlord does not have to cover the hotel really under any circumstances unless one of the following three. The apartment is unlivable to where it will impact the ordinary health and safety of a quote-unquote normal tenant. Quote-unquote. So normal tenant is kind of loosely defined. Obviously, we are not normal tenants, that out of the question. But normal tenants, I assume, are normal, quote unquote, people, right? Also people who maybe are, non-disabled, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah, non-disabled or who don't have any other underlying issues.
Mhm.
Okay. So the health and safety of the underlying health and safety of a normal tenant. So that means that, for example, they quoted an example. So if the water temperature of the hot water heater is below 120 degrees, of course, that's not suitable under Texas law, apparently. But but they don't really specify what the actual problems are, right? So it's kind of up to interpretation. They do have, though, like if there's no ceiling or if it's completely flooded. I mean, there's so many different variations. And of course, there's two different things here. We've got water damage and we've got flooding. So there's a big difference because water damage is what we have. We didn't actually have flooding. So water damage is like what happened here where a tenant dropped the tank of the toilet onto our pipe and it ruptured. Yes, our apartment flooded, but a flood would be like from a natural disaster, like a hurricane or something.
Well, and we had water damage in the fact that we had half an inch of water. It was not a huge standing water issue that you would see in a lot of places. So
Correct.
And probably upstairs got a lot worse than we did.
Right. But, and that's always the thing because then, like, the landlords would say, oh, people could still stay there, right? But the thing is that maybe normal tenants could stay there. But, if you have tenants who are blind like us and they have all this equipment in the way, well, I don't know about you, but I don't think it'd be really safe because if there's all these cables, I don't think that would be good because you wouldn't want blind people trying to trip over or any other tenant with disabilities, physical or otherwise, tripping over cables because that could be a liability on anyone's property, right? Because they could trip over and then you've got a tenant who hurt themselves because, that could be bad. So, that's something to keep in mind, but really they didn't have anything saying that they had to cover the hotel. So then it kind of leaves us up to renter's insurance, right? Because then we have to figure that all out. So really our rights in Texas are, we do have rights. And of course, if they don't make the repairs within 7 days, you could take them to legal action and all that stuff. But that's kind of a whole thing. But we don't really have a lot of, in terms of, they have to pay for a hotel. Unless the apartment's completely unlivable. But again, there's really nothing that says that.
So it's knowing your rights and coming up with solutions to problems. Again, we came up with the solution that this was not right for us. We could afford it, so we went and took a little bit of a in-town vacation.
And the other thing, too, is because we have businesses, we were able to do a little bit of maneuvering on that end, too.
Yes.
So that helped, at least for next year.
Problem solving.
Yep.
Coming up with solutions to problems is what we did there. But the same with code. Having a good foundation before you can make, and this goes back to blindness and everything else, an informed decision or informed choice on your solution. Because I could pick any solution, right? And it's a solution, it would solve my problem, but is it the best solution? I can write terrible code that will come up with a solution to a problem. And
I could too.
Yep.
I'm pretty good at it.
And it will solve one problem and make another.
Oh, yeah.
So it's knowing the foundation, knowing how things work. Even when you're looking at app development, you could build an app with React Native or Cordova or something else. And you could do great work with that. But unless you know the app foundation, like how the app lifecycle is and things like that, you're not going to be able to make a solution that's as good as a native application or something built with native UI components. And I'm sure that's the case with taxes. If you're doing somebody's taxes and you don't know all the laws, you don't know all of the ways of doing things, you could get the taxes done and the person may have to pay a lot of money. Or if you know what you're doing, like Taylor did with me last year, she could save you a lot of money. Right,
but of course, I knew what I was doing because I used TurboTax. But again, if I were to use professional tax software, I'm not qualified. Right? I don't have the certifications or the licensing, nor do I have the fundamental tax law knowledge.
Right. And, just to make it fully transparent, Taylor did this under my behalf as a courtesy for me because she's used the software before and I have not. So she walked me through it instead of just doing all of my taxes.
Yes, so this was not a professional using
right.
TurboTax for personal use, for professional use, which is against their licensing terms.
Right. Want to make that very clear.
Yes.
So, and even going to transportation, I just heard a bus go by. Sometimes it's, how do I get from point A to point B? Well, do you take a Lyft or an Uber or a bus? And you figure out what's the best thing for my money and for getting there, and you have to weigh those decisions. So again, programming, going back to that, your foundation, your thinking of the solutions is always the best way of doing things. That's why when you do a project realization and you go through and you say, this is what's needed for this project, right? You're going through and making sure you build that good foundation, so you know that when it's done, it's the right thing for you.
Project realization. Expand on that.
Project realization is where you have the project managers, the programmers, and all the people involved. And you say, okay, I need an app, like one of the things that I want to build. I need an app that is going to show my Mastodon account stats. And how am I going to do that for iOS? Well, what's all involved? Like yesterday, I just opened a project, opened a widget kit extension, and started going, and I had no clue what I was doing.
So is that not what you should do?
No. You need to realize the project, have all of your tools, all the knowledge that you need at the beginning, and so when you start, you're not just pushing through, digging in the soil, looking for precious minerals without knowing where, to start.
Okay.
When you mine for something, you have an idea where to look. You have an idea of what to do. But if you just say, I'm going to open a blank Python document, and I'm going to write a Markdown editor. Sorry, Taylor.
Yesterday.
Yeah.
Way to throw me under the bus.
Again.
I told you, I'll live under the bus,
You can use that foundation to say, okay, and this is why we use pseudocode, right?
Right. And I guess I get that from you, Michael, because you never use it, and so I never learned pseudocode. I mean, we kind of learned it at Western, where I went
Funny
to
thing
school.
is, I use it in my head. I can map out a whole project in my head, but not everybody can.
Well, and so I try to pick up your habits, and then that kind of throws me under the bus.
Because what you can do with pseudocode is you could even, and I just thought of this because this whole stream I'm winging, right?
We are both winging it.
Yes, but the difference is the material is just stuff I come up with.
Right.
That's how my mind works. And you could use pseudocode or anything in a to-do list fashion. You could build out the flow of whatever you're trying to do in a to-do list and check off the functionalities that you're trying to build.
Okay.
So that's an accessible way to build pseudocode.
Not a bad idea. You can also have ChatGPT generate pseudocode, but I don't know how that will go.
Also, if you're visual, a Kanban board, like Trello, can be useful for this. So, for example, you could have your menu bar be your top cards, file, edit, view. And then, you just start putting things in there that you want to make and just check them off when they're done. And then, there's so many ways of really doing this that's accessible, that doesn't involve drawing on a whiteboard.
Okay. But then how do you figure out what skills you're going to need? Because we already know we have to do pseudocode, but...
Right. So when you're working on say you're working on a Python project to do a Markdown editor, you say, what UI framework am I going to use? We pick WX.
Right.
Right? Okay. What functions, what Markdown elements does this editor have? You decide all of those up front.
Okay.
Then you say, how does one access that Markdown element? Do they use a toolbar, a menu bar, a keystroke, or all three? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Then you plan for that. You say, okay, we want all three. So if we're doing all three, then the next question is, if we're doing all three, how do we scope that. And the basic easy thing is, if you're doing all three, you have events that point to one function because they all do the same thing, right?
Right.
So if you have a key press, like Control or Command U for unordered list, boom, that activates the unordered list function. If you have a menu that does it, boom, activates the unordered list function. If you have a control on a toolbar, boom, activates the unordered list function. All of those can use the same code, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's where you have to scope these things. Is some people call it like when you're looking at doing accessibility for a website or building a website,
Yep, it's called
the scope
scoping.
of work.
Yep.
Same with programming. You're looking to create a scope for the work.
Okay.
And you do that throughout your code as well. So do you have any questions?
Of course I do. So then again, it's like, how do you know if I have to do classes, or how do you know if you have all the knowledge you need?
Right. So when you make the decision to use a framework like WX Python, when you research how you implement that, you will see, oh, they're using classes to make this work, so I need to know object-oriented programming. If I'm using the print statement to print something to the command line, I'm not using classes.
No, you're needing functions.
Yeah, you're just using functions. So you look at the framework you're using. Like, for example, if you look at Swift UI,
It's all structs.
it's all structs. You're not using quite the same as object-oriented programming. You are, but it's behind the scenes.
Right.
Now, if you're making custom controls in Swift UI, then yes, you are using classes and things. But and if you're using Swift, outside of Swift UI views, then you're going to be using classes and object-oriented programming. So it's just whatever you're using, you have to understand the concepts for.
Right. And what if you don't?
If you don't, then you need to learn the concept before you begin the work.
Okay.
I can't just muddle through creating a WX application if I don't know object-oriented programming, because like I might just make a frame, a single frame and a window, and not make them instances.
Uh-huh. Okay, so then how do you learn that?
So what you have to do to learn them is to really look online. Watch some online tutorials, maybe even my channel.
You don't have any class tutorials.
They're coming.
Oh, well, chop chop. My deadlines are...
But also Codecademy. They will teach the basics. LinkedIn Learning, they will teach those.
But Sirens won't.
Right, that was a weird siren. The learning through those platforms are the best way to learn, and being self-taught. Free Code Camp is a great use. And really, once you learn the concepts for, like, say, Python, the easiest way to learn this stuff, then you could apply that to Swift or to other languages. And it's just the syntax that will change. So when I was doing classes for JavaScript, I just had to look, how do I create a class in JavaScript? Or how do I create a class in Java?
But I think my thing is I don't understand the concepts.
Right. And so you have to learn the concepts, the fundamentals. There's object-oriented programming and procedural programming. Learning those two will make you set. For example, a class is a describer. So this is a desk.
Yes.
And I'm sure that was loud on the microphone.
Class desk.
Yep, class desk. A desk can have 4 legs or a number of legs. We don't know how many. It has a desktop. And so those are objects, and each object can have its own properties, like the color, number of.
Oh, I was even thinking about items on the desk. Would that be?
No, that is not part of the desk.
See, that's what I went to when I.
Those are their own their own selves, because this studio display is a monitor, right?
Yes.
It is a monitor with its own properties that are separate from the desk.
Okay. See, I was trying to put items in the desk, like.
No. You look at things. So, like with WX Python, we have a class that is an app.
Yep.
A class that is a wx.frame and a wx.panel. Each of those are different things, and you associate the panel to the frame to the app. And so you have an app that's its own instance, its own self. You have the frame, which is the window itself, which is its own instance, and then you have the panel, which is where you have the controls, right? So each of those is its own instance.
Correct.
Now, what you can do with object-oriented programming is subclass. So I could say, I have my own table that's basically a desk that's a white desk, right? And next to it, I have a desk that's a wooden desk, a dark wooden desk. And they both have their own properties.
Yep.
Their own colors, their own different things. So they're their own instances, but we've given them their own properties. Like, we can use subclassing to say this one has a 6 legs instead of 4. So that's why we can do all these crazy things with object-oriented programming. And, in the desk class, they can have methods like this one. Open drawer.
Right.
Closed drawer. Those would be instance or class methods. Now, we can have instance methods where open desk drawer loudly, where it would be like a loud desk drawer opening. It would be like opening a desk drawer, but different. And closing desk drawer loudly. But that's basically object-oriented programming. There's a lot more to it, but that's kind of the basics.
What about all the super and all that stuff I see on the tutorials?
So if you see super, that's when you're subclassing. And basically that's saying, make sure to include all the stuff that's in the main class. It's the upper level code that's ran before your code. Or after your code. However you want to do it. You can do it both ways.
Okay.
So, for all the financial people out there, we're sorry we bored you, but...
Well, y'all said on Twitter that you guys wanted to learn this stuff, right? Because you guys were all talking about how you want to learn this. You want to be better at finances and coding, right? You want to be able to help, you understand the business logic, but you understand the computer logic. Well, this is a really great introduction. Maybe a little bit over your head, but keep watching more of my videos because I'll be doing more of these. So
that's the thing with writing, with problem solving when you do code. It's knowing that foundation before you even get into it. So, like, if I see the words class, the class name, extends, like in JavaScript, it'll say extends, or I don't remember the syntax in Python, but basically, like, I think it's parentheses wx.frame or something like that.
It is.
That's the same as extends. Basically, we're subclassing wx_frame into our class. So, if you see that, that means we're making a class that's a type wx_frame. That'd be like saying, in class MacBook parentheses computer.laptop.
Okay.
Because we're extending the laptop class and the type is a MacBook. which has its own properties, which are different from other laptops, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of the basics of classes. When we look at properties and methods and objects and instances, like when you want to use a class, you say something like, you create a variable like let my desk equals new, and this is in JavaScript, equals new brown desk.
Way to confuse me.
Yeah, that's how you create an instance of a brown desk.
Okay.
So, like, in Python, at the bottom where it says, like, app equals my app parentheses, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's saying create a new variable that's a new instance of my app. Does that make sense?
Yep, or is frame one of those two?
Yeah, well, yeah, we're making a new frame.
Right, frame equals wx.frame.
Mm-hmm. But like in your editor, you're making a frame inside of the app.
Well, I'm going to be changing that whole thing, so.
Mm-hmm. So there's several ways to do one thing. Again, it just comes down to what's the most efficient way.
And what I did was not.
Mm-hmm.
But, that's why I'm trying to learn.
Yep.
But yeah, do we have anyone in chat? Is everyone bored? Is anyone still watching? Let me check. I'd love to know. I don't think anyone's watching us. That's okay. But yeah, it's very, awesome. Like, because I want to be able to learn this stuff. Because yes, I'm also interested in finance and, that kind of thing. But my view is that finance and technology have to work together.
Yes.
And so I think it's very important that finance, accounting people can learn how to program in some degree, because they can make tools that will help them automate things.
Yep. But
do we have any more things to talk about, Michael?
That's kind of the basics of what I wanted to talk about today. I'm actually going to start a series on my channel called Finding Success in the Digital Age Through Problem Solving. And eventually, when I get around to it, I'll write it all down into a book.
Yeah. Right?
That I've been trying to write for the last 10 years.
Yeah. So, subscribe to Michael's channel. I've got his channel on my banner and mine, so I need to get up to 50 subscribers for his channel, so
we're at 47.
Come on, y'all. 3 more. Let's do it. So, check out Michael's channel. I'm also on his channel, so if you like hearing my voice, well, you're going to hear more of it on Michael's channel. Well, I think that will do it for today's stream. Hope you guys are having a great evening, and be on the lookout. I've been posting a lot of things in my community tab because I'm going to be doing a VS Code tutorial. Everyone's been asking me, so finally I'm going to be doing it. So be on the lookout because I'm going to be posting the date for that.
And I'll even be doing some GitHub Copilot research with VoiceOver on the Mac. So Taylor will be doing it for Windows. I'll be doing it for Mac.
And we're going to do a stream about it?
Yep. Tomorrow.
Oh, we are?
Yep.
Good to know.
Yep.
Okay.
On my channel. Be there.
Be there. Again, I'll make a post on the community tab.
Yep.
Yep.
You heard it live here.
Yep. So be on the lookout. We're not exactly sure what time it is, but be on the lookout. I'll be posting it. If you're not following me on Twitter, well, I think you better start. Follow me on Mastodon as well. I got my links in the description. Also, follow Michael. We were trying to work on our social media profiles. Although, Michael, you took a big leap this week with your big post that you wrote.
Yeah, I put a post up that I created a new Mastodon instance called accessibility.social, and it got like 50-something reblogs or boosts, however you want to say it. So that's pretty exciting.
So yeah, be on the lookout, folks, because we're going to be going live tomorrow again, and we're going to be going live a lot, so.
Yep.
All right, everyone, I think that will do it for today's stream. I'm going to go get coding, and we'll see how everything goes.
Sounds good.
All right, bye, everyone.